Hello, and welcome to a Lady Well-Traveled podcast. I'm your host and creator, Shannon Bednarova, and I'm thrilled that you've joined me today. On this program, we talk about all things travel and try to do it with a sense of humor, reason, and fun. Pretty much any topic is within limits here. And my goal is to share information with our listeners that they may not hear on other travel podcasts or get from other travel content providers. Today, I'm delighted to host my first guest on A Lady Well Traveled, and I believe you'll enjoy hearing from her too. Episode 3, Traveling and Loving Life with an Organ Transplant, features my best friend, Karen Bremer Denton, and I'm so happy to welcome her to the show. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you, Shannon.
So let's go ahead and jump right in. Karen, do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself, like how old you are, where you live, to kind of give our listeners a sense of who you are?
I am married. I have one daughter who is expecting my first grandchild. I'm 62 years old. I live on the Isle of Palm in South Carolina, and I'm a retired nurse. I'm very active. I love gardening. I love my plants and my dogs. I love training my dogs.
Wonderful. Now, how long, Karen, have you and I known one another?
I believe it's been 58 years.
It's been a while. Karen, have you loved to travel for most of your life?
Oh, yes, as long as I can remember.
Do you remember the first trip that you and I ever took together?
I believe the first one we ever took with just the two of us was to the Turks and Caicos for your birthday.
That's right. You're my guest today, and we're going to talk about traveling with an organ transplant. And I'm very, very happy to say this, a very successful organ transplant patient. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what organ you received?
Yes, I received a liver transplant almost 9 years ago. It'll be 9 years in February, and it is indeed a blessing because it has allowed me to continue to live my life and experience many things.
That's a wonderful thing. Congratulations.
That's
such an achievement. Let's share with our listeners how that's impacted you regarding your travel locally and abroad as well. How long was it after your transplant before you could take a trip locally, and then how long was it until you could travel abroad?
Well, I was very fortunate that I had my transplant at a local hospital. So my first trip locally was the day after my discharge to go back for lab work, and that continued every several days, I believe.
Okay.
And it was difficult.
Was it because the surgery was a big surgery?
Yes, because of the disease.
Then how long was it after your recovery until they cleared you to take longer trips and then abroad?
Whenever your transplant team gives you clearance to travel, you certainly may. My transplant team told me they gave me my transplant so I could live and I could travel.
It was probably like when you felt comfortable too. That probably had a lot to do with it too.
You have to get used to your new normal with the medications and stuff.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Brings up another point. Did you have any lasting side effects from your transplant surgery or the medications that you had to go on? I think pretty much everybody's familiar with you having to take medication for the rest of your life.
That's correct. I take tacrolimus, which is an immunosuppressant, to keep me from rejecting my new liver. And unfortunately, that drug has many side effects. A couple of the things that I experienced from those is kind of a brain fog, a low magnesium level, and most significantly, I have neuropathy in my feet.
And that's painful, tingling, numbness for those of our listeners who don't know exactly what that is. That's nerve damage to your feet. That's definitely got to be hard to deal with, I'm sure.
It is, but I have learned how. They have adjusted medication that I take to help with the nerve pain, and I feel like I live a very normal life.
How do you deal with the medications that you take?
Well, with all my medications before I travel, I have to check with the pharmacy and make sure I have the refills I need. Make sure I have more than enough for my trip. Also, I carry my medication in my carry-on, always with me in the appropriate bottles. I've never had a problem carrying my medications on board.
Are there places in the world that you can't go or shouldn't go?
If it's a place that has a lot of infectious disease, high-risk areas for anything like that, I also check and find out where the closest transplant hospital is, just for my own peace of mind.
What would you do in an emergency, if you were abroad, like if you had a potential rejection incident? What are the types of things that you would have to think about if you had something like that happen?
Well, certainly already looking ahead, thank goodness we have Google and we can find information about hospitals that have the capability. Also, I would contact my team and see what they might offer to help me. I certainly would consider going back home if I had to.
Of course, yeah.
If I could go back to the medication real quick, I wanted to say that I do recommend getting a pill organizer. I don't always use one at home because I'm so in tune to my medicines. But on vacations, a couple of things. With the time change, you have to consider, and it's important to keep up with which time it is in both countries. Adjust your medication accordingly. Most of us take our immunosuppressants every 12 hours. So that's always important. And then just because you kind of get out of sorts on a vacation and with the time change, I find that the organizer thank you, I find that they help me keep up with the day's bills.
Sure. Well, yeah, and you're dealing with jet lag and you're tired.
Night is morning and
morning
is night.
Of course,
so it's important that you set your alarm and keep up with your immunosuppressants.
Karen, since you've had your transplant, I know because we're friends and we've traveled a lot, where have you been able to travel since you had your transplant?
Well, besides the Turks and Caicos, I've been to Italy, Portugal, Spain, the Caribbean, Canada, a lot of places in the United States, everywhere from New York to Florida.
That's awesome. That's wonderful. And that's exactly the reason why, right? I know you've got some trips coming up that we're taking together. That's going to be another wonderful thing that we have to look forward to. Karen, what advice do you have for other transplant patients, those who are looking to have a transplant, or other people who have chronic illness who want to travel but may be afraid or anxious about traveling? What advice would you give them, having been through what you've been through?
You were given this so you could live. And part of living is getting out and meeting new people and experiencing new things and seeing the beauty of the world. So
absolutely.
I say go. It's no different from daily life. Just a few adjustments. Always keep a list of your medicines and your contact numbers for your physicians and where you had your transplant, and give that to a travel companion so that they have that information in case your phone's locked and they can't get that. Always check on the water. I do not drink the local water usually unless I'm quite sure, but I try to stick to bottled water when I'm traveling. And you might want to take some extra over-the-counter medicines that are okay for you to take. I take things in case I get diarrhea. And you also want to make sure that you take your sunscreen because it's very important, because we are on the immunosuppressants, that we monitor our sun exposure because we're more risk for skin cancers.
How about wearing a mask like on an airplane when you travel or in a crowd? And hand sanitizer.
When I'm traveling, I keep hand sanitizer. I keep that with me at all times, and I'm also, again, my medical background, very frequent hand washing. I wash my hands, very careful not to touch my face. If I'm in a crowd, I will wear my mask. You do what your transplant team recommends for you. I have been okay not to wear my mask, particularly outside and in cathedrals where you're not very close to people. I'm very comfortable. But again, that's a personal decision that you need to discuss with your physician.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your experience with our listeners today, Karen. Thank you so very much. If you have any questions or would like to email us at Shannon@aladywelltraveled. If you have any questions you'd like to send to Karen, I will get those questions to her. I am sure she would be happy to answer those for you. Thank you so much for joining us today. I look forward to meeting with you again and discussing more travel topics, things that you'd like to hear from me about. I'm broadcasting now from Italy, and we'll be talking about a lot of the things that we're seeing here in Italy. Food, culture, wonderful sights as well. Invite your friends and family to join us here on A Lady Well Traveled. And before we close, as always, remember that God created this beautiful world just for you. So get out there and go see it now. And until we meet again, bye-bye.